welcome to the Sacred Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Way. Today I have two very special guests, Jessica Brodkin and Alex Grubard.
Hello, that's me.
So I would love for each of you to just tell the audience who you are, what you do.
My name is Jessica Brodkin. I am a Reiki healer based in New York City and a stand-up comedian.
Hey, I'm a stand-up comedian, and that's mostly the thing. I'm a game show host, that kind of stuff. Proud game show host.
Excellent.
We're going to talk a little bit today about specifically what you both do and where people find healing through the work that you do, where you find healing through the work that you do. If you think that comedy is something that is special enough to become more of a sacredized, I don't think that's a word, form of entertainment, that's really the goal here. Is I want to know what's sacred about comedy for you.
I just think doing it in a way and like it being available is kind of a thing, and accessible, I think, are big things to me. People, it's just like painting or something. Like you should be able to just do it even if you're not trying to be Georgia O'Keeffe or something. You know what I mean? Like you should, it's like we were talking earlier, I find it to be a lot about self-expression. And not just for me, like I think when I watch people do stand-up, especially on like a level where they're just starting, or, we all know people that continue to do stand-up even though they've never been on a show or something like that, and there's no professionalism into what they do. I mean, there are people like that, hypothetically.
And we're
who are
taking
these
shots
people?
immediately.
No, well,
we just come in being like, let's talk about the unprofessional comics.
Well, I think there's something sacred about like, well, why do they still do it? And why do we still accept that that's a thing? And like open mic culture and things like that on a really like base level, what is sacred about comedy? And I think going up in front of people, being able to say your thoughts is something that you just don't get, outside of stand-up, really. I mean, the goal is to make people laugh, but people do it without getting laughs and stuff.
Do you think the goal is also to just make people think or reflect?
What do I think their goals are, or what do I think the ultimate goal of it?
The goal of, you said it was like the goal is to make people laugh. Do you think also the goal is to make people think?
I think some people think that, but I think most people, maybe not most, I think a lot of people do think that. I don't know if I would say that's the ultimate goal. There are times I think that, certainly, but there are times I'm like, it's really just to sell nachos and beer. There's times I think that. But I think like that's why I kind of go more to the self-expression level.
Nachos is extremely sacred.
And they don't sell themselves if they don't have jalapenos and olives and stuff on them. If there's no sour cream, how are you going to move that stuff? Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, I go back to that self-expression thing. Like, why do people go back to something that is not working for them? And, people aren't laughing, people aren't thinking. Why do they still go back to it? I think there's just something about getting your 5 minutes or your 3 minutes or whatever and just saying anything. Some dark thought, some nonsensical thought, people do that. I do that, like plenty. And why do you keep going back to it? It's addictive, it's addictive to be able to say things out loud, and people are not forced to listen, but they're there for you, even if they're kind of checked out even.
Yeah.
But it feels like they're there, and people come back to that. They can't stop because you just don't get that anywhere else. Yeah. Kind of. I mean, you can express yourself in other ways, but there's something so basic about standing up and getting, to say stuff into a microphone. I think podcasting kind of sometimes goes along that way too. Yeah. But that's kind of what I find sacred about comedy is that freedom of saying anything, You can post it on Twitter into a black void, but you don't even know if people are seeing it. But in stand-up, even if there's only 3 people watching you, you know that they're there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's a whole different vibe.
Right.
Well, so one of the reasons that we're doing this episode today is that we've got Jess Brodkin, who does healing work, is going to attempt a reading of Alex. So
answer the question about what's sacred?
Right? Yeah,
I want to know.
God. I'm like, yeah.
I'm a really great podcast host.
I believe that for me, it took a while, but I've now integrated all the things that I do as one thing. And so my lens with which I do stand-up comedy and the way that I do healing is really my job is to transform people. And I am we all are, but I am an unusually multifaceted person, and not everyone is going to connect in one way or the other. So some people want to be on my healing table. Some people just want a sound bath. Some people just want videos. Some people will just want to go to a comedy show. But either way, my job, I see my entire job, both as a healer and as a comedian, to be a job of service. So my job is that I work for the audience. My job, and that the ideal joke is always like, what do I enjoy saying, and what does the audience want to hear? You know, there were definitely times in my life, even recently, where I would tell jokes that the audience didn't really want to hear, but I needed to say, right? So that your self-expression, like some really dark stuff, where I would get laughs, but sometimes people would pull back. But I enjoyed walking that edge, to be honest, right? Like that's like a really fun cliff to be on, to be like, can I pull this joke off? You know what I mean? Like, how dark can they go? But in general, I just see it like comedy is an agent for transformation, whether that is at your shows where there's no alcohol and it's high vibe and we're surrounded by crystals and candles, or if you are in a shitty basement, or if you're in the Comedy Cellar, or if you're watching on YouTube. Comedy is an agent of change. And comedy is also, I think, a universal human trait. I don't think you really like go through cultures and not see comedy and not see performance, because laughter is the fastest way to change someone's energy. Yeah. So that's what we're here to do.
Woo! Well, before we go into the reading, I'm just going to share with you one of the reasons that sacred comedy, why it came up. I was doing healing work, psychic work. I work as a psychic, as an intuitive, and I was getting a visualization while I was taking an Akashic Records class. I saw a temple, and it looked it felt Greek, but it also felt Egyptian.
Yeah.
And I saw just a huge gaggle of women just kind of standing, and I knew something was happening. I could tell that there was like some kind of big celebration or something happening, but I knew that they were priestesses, and priestesses had very specific jobs in temples. I was looking at them, and I could see that they were dying laughing. And at the time, I was very serious in my sort of spiritual path, and I was like, I am a psychic, and I was very serious about my healing, and it's like there's the right way and there's a wrong way. And that message that came through, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, people, and in my mind I was like, why don't I think that people in ancient Egypt laughed?
Yeah.
Like, why is it such a strange thing? And then the answers that I got were like, y'all need to like really stop taking everything so seriously with the spirituality and like, all of this stuff. And I was like, it just surprised me. It was just like a very like, oh, this is supposed to be funny, being human and having humor and all of those things. It's like healing is hilarious. It's ridiculous.
That's interesting you say that, actually, the way you talk about it as like a temple thing and even just Egyptian, because so I've taken classes on comedy and stuff on like a more academic way. And from what I've heard and been taught, not that I was there or know anything, but comedy in that way, the type of stand-up and sketch, just that performance base, it comes directly from the like rabbis, essentially. That rabbis were nobody was allowed to talk against the authority of the rabbi, except people that were joking, that were making jokes about it. So as long as you knew that it was a joke, that was allowed. But you can't go against that authority, which is one reason why people think about comedy as being like Jewish and such. But yeah, kind of there's a somewhat direct correlation to that. And it's not just that culture, but I think there's more documented kind of stuff about that sort of thing. But also just the idea of like why we laugh supposedly comes from danger, and that something isn't dangerous anymore. That, oh, there's a tiger over there, I'm really scared. Oh, you know what? It's just a cat. Ha 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 ha.
Right.
Everybody can relax.
So they it's almost like this climax in a way. Like
yes, right. It's resolute. You know, there's, we're all fine. And we went through this thing and we're all fine. It's like why you kind of go, well, the other day I had this crazy thing happen to me, but punchline, everything's fine. I'm here in front of you telling you
this tale.
Right. I wasn't eaten by a tiger. It was a cat.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I think
that's really cool. I never knew that.
Yeah, I mean that's at least what I've been taught in the class Jewish humor past and present.
The shofar was the first sound bath.
It's the rim shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is a sound bath?
Israel? Okay. Yeah. Oh, sound bath.
You guys keep talking. You're saying sound bath.
Sound bath is there's no bubbles, there's no water.
Yeah, it's a bath of sound.
It's a bath
maybe.
of sound. It's
is
just So basically, people are generally lying down. It's a group of people. Sometimes it's a small group, and let's say the sound healer will play gongs and sound bowls and various instruments and drumming and percussions and like rain snakes. It's a good time.
That sounds great.
Everyone,
I love that stuff.
Everyone jerks each other.
I do them.
That's
and
cool.
You say everyone jerks each other. No, that's a
really?
sex party. No.
Oh man.
No, but yeah, I've been.
Someone
doing
needs to bring those two things together.
I would assume someone has.
Maybe that. That's
Anyway,
that's your next business venture. After you like sell sacred comedy.
Yeah.
Porn. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you
cool.
want to start
the reading? Yeah, sure.
Let's do
I
it.
got something. We're
10
gonna do it
minutes
together,
on the
right?
clock. Yeah, we'll do it.
All right.
We're gonna-
10 minutes on the
10
clock.
minutes.
Countdown.
I felt a strong connection with plants and plant consciousness. So not just mushrooms, but like plant consciousness in general, and a close connection to nature and earth. And that's something that's like very grounding, and that's something that like maybe you go back to regularly. Is your connection to sort of like that realm, or that I don't even know if it's conscious or unconscious. I did feel like there is some sort of latent heart ache that I don't know what it's from, but it's unresolved in your body, and there's some stuff that's sort of in your way that you can't quite see, in the way of you moving forward. So, what are your thoughts?
This is very helpful because I'm starting to get some stuff too. So there's a first image I get, and I see things in symbols. So, it's you kind of. It kind of looks like you're in a straitjacket, but it's not. That's not what it means. That doesn't mean you're crazy or anything. The reason
this is going to be really good. I can't wait for the rest of this reading.
But it's a self-created straitjacket. It's not saying like you're. It's a bind almost that you have sort of put on yourself.
Keep you from escaping the mental asylum. I think.
That's true. That as well. I mean, it has to do with some kind of forward movement. So there is something that binds you, and I feel like what is binding you is something that it's like a feeling that the voice in your head is kind of telling you like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do that. It's almost like you're reserving yourself a little with certain things. Is it emotionally?
Emotionally.
Yeah. And it's sort of, I'm just kind of asking, what would it take to unwrap that straitjacket? Like, what would that? And it's not like a buckled, weird looking one. It's like a nice color.
Should I interject?
Really? Yeah, no, please feel free.
Okay, so it feels like negative thought patterns to me. So
and beliefs.
And beliefs. So
sure.
it feels like thought patterns and beliefs. So it felt like false negative, which is most people's negative beliefs are their ego coming up with stories that aren't real, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But it feels like negative. Internalized negative beliefs and thought patterns that are sort of like preventing you, but you don't even realize you're there because it's like a fish being in water. You're like, oh, this is like where I normally swim.
Dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Do you ride bikes? Do you ride a bike?
No. I mean, I know how to ride a bike.
I've
ridden a bike.
So one of the things
but not regularly, no. I don't own a bike.
I feel like your
I don't have
energy,
a city bike pass.
Your energy could benefit from riding a bike, which sounds weird. And usually when physical movement comes up in readings, it doesn't necessarily have to, it's not like you need to get some cardio. Like it's not about that. And like you need to get rid of like whatever. It's not that at all. It's literally just the energetic. It's something that's going to help disrupt the current energetic pattern. So your energy wants to flow a certain way. And the feeling of your body on a bicycle can help achieve that. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So it's like, usually with a bicycle, it's like it's the forward momentum. That's a big deal. I get to steer. I get to do all of those things. That's a kind of like, that's why that movement can work for your energy. That's something that would help. That sort of
So is it
binding.
like symbolic in a way?
It's sort of symbolic. It's an energetic exercise. It's really more for your body's energy, what your energy wants to do. Feel me propelling myself, me directing where I'm gonna go, me feeling the wind on my face. Very basic, earthy type stuff, like physical stuff. But your energetic body that's residing, how would you describe the energetic body?
I mean, it's this is a meat suit.
Yeah, this is a meat suit, and you have this field around you. That's
the energy
you.
body. It's you, and it's like, you know, I mean, the auric field is around you.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know? Have you ever like? Do you know what that means?
The meat suit.
You know,
Like
sort of
the auric
meat suit means?
field.
No, but I mean, the energy body,
Yeah.
I think, is just like, you know, over his regular body or in his regular body.
Yeah.
I think that they're sort of one, and it just extends a little further out. So, you know, you're next to somebody who maybe they have bad vibes or they just were stressed out. You will feel that even if you're far away from them. And then, you know, it turns out that there's some physics and chemistry behind that in terms of people can smell different stuff. So there's actually, vibes are real.
Vibes are real.
The vibes.
The vibes.
So what kind of healing work have you done? Like what kind of these sort of, you said you have gone to a psychic before, or you?
No, a friend of mine's mom does Reiki.
That's
and
how
I-
it usually
that's cute.
happens.
Exactly,
That's
and
so
I
cute.
did it, and it was very comforting. You know, I found it enjoyable. But you know, I don't think about it too deeply in the way of like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. You know, that's certainly
It
not
kinda
how
just
I.
showed up
got
in your
another-
life.
Yeah, it was like, what
I
is
just-
this? I've heard of it. It was like 10 years ago.
I just got another hit.
At least.
There's like for you, there's very much this like crystalline structure. Because at first, when we first started, I was like, I saw usually your energy field is this. It's what's it called?
Aura?
The apple shape.
Okay.
Can't think of anything. Too much
Macintosh.
plant medicine. It's just like an energy field that you are
Yeah.
in, or that is coming out of you. And usually it's this shape. It's this circular shape, and I felt like inside of that shape for you, it's almost like there's this box. Like you're inside the box that's inside the shape, and it's like there's certain things that you won't go further with because you're like, that's not real. That's not part of what I do.
So you feel like he's
Does that
holding
make sense?
himself back mentally without realizing it?
From
Is that
what?
what
Where's
we're
this holding back stuff? Honestly, like, what is this
You
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me.
holding back? I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm holding back.
no,
I
I
mean,
think
maybe
it's-
that's negative thought
I
pattern
think
or
it's really
something.
just more
But
at how you look at things, not what you're doing. Does that? It's like you'll see something and be like, "That's not the right way it's supposed to be." So it's very like structured and like angular. There's not room for.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that's my mindset, that I'm like, don't do that this way, don't do that. I'm kind of more into the like discussion of why people do things the way they do them, or, you know, or I do them or anything like that. You know, I think of, I don't know if I like even the healing and all that kind of stuff. Like if I felt like I was, you know, needing to push forward or something, I guess I don't think of things like that in that way of like forward and backward and, you know, that kind of thing. It's not
You feel like you're just on this journey,
yeah,
And
I'm
you're just-
living life like everybody,
just like
you know. And there are times that you know, you're like, oh, I want to get over this, or I want to,
Yeah.
you know, oh, I want to quit smoking or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's not like a forward backward thing either. It's a, you know, achieving something more than it is.
Sure.
You know, it's more about, I guess, achievement or like setting goals and willpower and stuff in those kinds of ways. You know, even goals, I think, are often, you know, you set a goal and then there are so many ways within or to the, you know, within that area that will be satisfying, and ultimately you're achieving that goal without actually landing on these words that I put in my brain. I want this exact thing, and it's like,
Right.
you know,
It's like, what are you actually trying to feel?
feel.
Well, for me, it's like when I think about, sometimes we're so rigid on like very specific goals, but for me, I think about more like, okay, what is what is my purpose? What is my mission? Am I fulfilled? Can I be fulfilled with this on various different levels? Instead of like, if I don't, so it's sort of like I try to remove the ego from accomplishment and be like, and that's what I'm trying to do, because I and try to set goals that I was like, okay, I'm going to finish my book. Like, let's say I want to finish writing my book in 2024. So 2024, I want to finish writing my book. I'm trying to launch 1 or 2 courses. You know, there's like things that I like want to like actually do, and I don't want to move toward it like this will make me fulfilled. You know what I mean? Instead of fulfillment, I'm trying to access fulfillment from like small things and be like, I'm alive. I live in a nice apartment. I have heat. I'm like, I have my family. Everything's good. Like, I'm trying to like live from that place instead of the way that I think we are so much in the West, and maybe as Americans also are so like, if your life isn't extraordinary, it's shit. Like that, because there's a huge thing because of TikTok and because of just the way we were raised. Like, you must be extraordinary or you're worthless, as opposed, which is like absolute garbage. But that is really the way that people are mentally taught, and then they're miserable, right?
Right. I
And
totally
so there's
agree
like
with you.
complete like mental suffering that comes from that. And then if you go into the more Asian traditions of like Zen and Buddhism and all of this other stuff, like before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Like, you just like keep going. You know what I mean? Just like kill the ego and keep going and kill the ego. And I try to think, if you're talking about like how is comedy sacred, and be like, okay, at the level of comedy that I'm at right now, I will be like grateful for it and say like, this spot is sacred. Okay, I'm performing at New York. You know what I mean? Like, this is, my spots are sacred. My work is sacred. I mean, sure, it could be like, okay, I should stop doing 10-minute set, not stop, but do more longer sets. But that doesn't mean that I was like, you know what, I should really just do more 20-minute sets next year or something. You
Well,
know?
I think it's exactly like you said. It's 10 minutes is chopping wood, 5 minutes is carrying water.
That's right.
You don't stop. You know,
don't
that's
stop.
what comedy is. Comedy is, continuing to do it. I think exactly like you said about a lot of
Exhale.
things where it's like, the success thing.
Yeah.
I mean, people look at comedy and comedians and they're like, if you're not Bill Burr, you're a failure. And it's like, that is not how I think about comedy at all.
Right. That's not how you should think about anything.
And exactly. Not how you, and again, not how you should think about anything, certainly. Comedy, I think, is one of these things as far as like spirituality. That's like where I generate a lot of comedy. I look at comedy as like a religion sometimes. I totally do. And it's this thing we access and we pray to in a way.
That's right.
Go do it. And just like you were saying with Zen, it's like the act of doing it, not doing it for a long time is when I start to feel off base.
100%.
Right.
I tried quitting a few times.
Yeah.
I've quit comedy, I don't know, I think 7 times.
You can't quit comedy.
You cannot quit comedy.
You take a hiatus.
I thought I quit comedy. I was like, I'm going to be a healer, and I'm just going to go to the gym after work. I'm going to go on dates with normal men.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
No. The universe was like, not now, bitch, not ever. Like, that's not who you are. When you're an artist, you're an artist. It's in you. You can't stop. Can't stop, won't stop.
There's even phrases about it. Everybody's a comedian. There's a cliche for all of those things, that just like you would find scripture to access every single moment that and anything that could happen. I think you could do that with stand-up comedy and comedy in general.
Yeah.
Just creating worlds and sort of stuff. It's play.
It's right.
It's a type of play and amusement, absolutely. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's just about selling drinks. But
right. Because show business is business.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Show business has no business calling itself a business, but it is a business.
It's a business.
And there
Maybe
are
not
aspects of
always-
it that aren't, but that doesn't mean, I think of places, all sorts of things, like comedy scenes. I'm big on scenes.
Really?
Really big on comedy scenes.
I would love to hear.
I think comedy scenes are bigger than, not bigger, but like they're important. Somebody said this to me recently, Sarah Kennedy in Albuquerque said this to me, and I was like, this is such a great line. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was essentially about how cities and regions, they should have a comedy scene and they should have local comedians because it's important for a local area, a municipality, whatever, to hear the, current events of the day broadcast back to them. And kind of in that same way I was talking about with rabbis, where it's like, it's you're supposed to be something in the politics or something horrible happens and someone can make fun of that immediately. And we find that accessible. You know, we find that to be relieving. It's important to hear those things about Jersey City or whatever coming back to you from the residents, from the people that represent that town, you know, and that area and that community. Sure. I mean, it's a community thing, a communal thing, and it's a quick thing. It happens fast instead of being like, this thing happened in New Jersey, and then you read a book about it 5 years later. It's you can go to a show that night and hear people talk about it and making light of it.
I mean, that's why people love crowd work so much, why the audience loves crowd work. Comedians don't like watching crowd work.
Yeah, well, crowd work I find to be...
You don't like watching crowd work?
We hate watching crowd work.
But you don't. But do you like doing crowd work?
Do I like doing crowd work?
I think it depends, but
it's a form of comedy. But I think it. You know, I don't find it to be the reason most people do comedy. No. Some people certainly, but you know, you write all these jokes and then you go to the show and then it's just like, well, who are you? What are you doing? It's like there's a way to connect. Yeah. But I feel like it's not comedy in a way. Like it's not really
about the scene thing. It's like it's like shop local, everybody. Right. Where's your local comedy scene?
Absolutely.
And it's really important. Excuse me, cat hair. It's really didn't get it. It's really important to the local culture. It's important to our culture. There's an organization called the Foundation for Healing. What? And it's this foundation in Massachusetts. And they are all about bringing arts into like healing. And I notice, and I'm following them, and I'm like, I'm going to shoot my shot with them at some point. Yeah. But I a lot of the times when they think of healing and healing arts and things like that, even like art therapy, they really do separate. Like comedy's nowhere to be found in there. And I'm like, but comedy's like the biggest thing that can help that. Well, but it's like you're seeing things reflected that are in your experience, and you're feeling that with other people. There's scientific studies that when you laugh in a group with other people, it's more effective. Even shamans, when a shaman is doing healing, a big part of that is the reaction of the crowd, and that is all of that can add to a healing experience. But again, just going back to this local thing, I totally forgot because I'm a stoner. So yeah.
Well, shamans are artists and healers, and so I didn't know that. And I think for years I had a really hard time with my own identity and feeling I had to choose one thing or the other. And it was just because I became a comedian. You know, you become a comedian is like I think a true calling. And I think becoming a healer is the same. So, you know, there are people who make a living just to make a living. And I have the pleasure of making a living doing my purpose in life. Yeah. And that's really like what a glorious place to be.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course. Please.
The way that I found Jess Brodkin is first Karen Rontowski mentioned your name. Oh, okay. And I was doing research about local comedy scenes because I didn't know anything about the comedy scene before we started all of this. And Jess started doing integrated with readings, like performances integrated with readings. I mean, tell me that,
no.
But a long time ago.
So what I did a long time ago was with a woman named Sarah R. Moore, and we did something called the. Sarah. You know Sarah?
Yeah. DC baby.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
She was in DC, I think, a long time.
I was in DC a long time ago.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Well, there you go. Man, I'm psychic.
DC
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, I haven't seen Sarah in a long time.
You are psychic. That's going to happen every episode. You are psychic, whether you think you are or not. But go ahead.
But Sarah and I started something called the Moonual. A few of my girlfriends, Sarah Moore and then Jessica Rotundi, had these visions of types of shows, and then they would sort of recruit me to be their co-producer. So the Moonual was at Caroline's, and it was always on the full moon with an all-female lineup. And God, what did we do at the end? I can't even remember. We would have people fill out forms about what they wanted to release for the full moon, and at the end we had like this ritual where we were screaming with tambourines, and the audience has tambourines too, and then we're just reading out ridiculous shit. So the audience during the show would fill out forms and would read out funny things and make fun of them and tease them. And then with Jessica Rotundi, we kind of had something similar, but we did psychic readings at the end. We did psychic readings. She's a more trained psychic than me, but for some reason, when I did work with her, my intuition was strong. Yeah, but I was on stage. I would be on stage with her, and I was more talking shit, and she was doing more legitimate, heartfelt readings, and I was just being more. I was serving cunt. Which was my intuition was there, and I would say things, but
that's your act of service.
My act of service, act of service, serving cunt. But she would be like, "I'm seeing this," and I would be like, "You're gonna be a writer," and then that was it. And, and then I would shit on them, and then she would talk for 5 minutes. So that was the kind of we had different styles. Yeah, but yes, I was serving cunt. Anyway,
yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, Jess, there's a lot of OGs of comedians who have like brought in the spiritual stuff. But I just wanted to ask you this, and we'll start wrapping up kind of soon. But I just wanted to ask you, like, so you've done psychedelics. Have you ever had any kind of visions or like hearing something or anything that you were like, oh, this is bigger. This is.
You're saying, like, did I
ever
had any
speak
like with God while I was on salvia?
Exactly.
Is that what you're asking?
Did you ever see aliens or interdimensionals? We'll make that correction soon. Or have you ever had any really strange things that you just like kind of couldn't explain that would fall into that sort of?
I'm not often doing like heroes doses. I mean, I've done it, but I've performed on mushrooms like several times.
Wow. Okay, Matt Ruby.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in that Matt Ruby special. Yeah, and we were talking about it. Yep. And I was blown away that he hadn't until he did the special. I was like, dude, what? He was like, I've never done, like smoked weed before. I'm like, Matt, you are such a stoner.
I smoked weed for the first time like a month ago.
Oh, snap.
All together in
and
general?
my whole life. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I just did one
joint,
small
bowl,
amount.
bong?
Joint. I just
edible?
did one little, it was
one hit? Did you go up after?
No. I did start singing a lot.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I run a weed
about
game
tech
show.
Bros.
I run a game show about weed. You did? I do, still, 8 years. Yeah, all the time.
I would love for you guys to plug your stuff. Let's segue into that. So tell us about your shows and what you're up to.
Well, my game
and
show
where
is
people can find you.
Well, Weeding Out the Stoned, the game show of sobriety tests. We have a bunch of comics. They're all high but one. We try and figure out who the sober person is.
That's very funny.
It's been going well. Yeah, I think you can go to weedingoutthestone.com. You can follow us on the internet everywhere, social media at Weeding Out the Stone. I believe our next show is December 29th in Philadelphia at Black Squirrel Club. Also, I believe
it will have happened after this airs.
Oh yeah, that's true. But our, watch out for the 420 show. It's probably going to be at the Rockwell in Somerville, Massachusetts.
Oh wow.
420 2024. But yeah, I have a big stand-up show coming up at White Eagle Hall. It's Alex Grubard's Comedy All-Nighter. We've got a 2-hour show at White Eagle Hall, headlined by Chris Gethard and Donish McBool. Tons of great Jersey comics on that show. After party at Pet Shop. After party at a secret location. But if you know where that's going to be at every night at midnight. But yeah, that is January 13th, Saturday, January 13th. Right now, tickets are only $15. Day of the show, they are $20. So grab those tickets right now. Alex Grubard's Comedy All-Nighter at White Eagle Hall. And you can find all my shows at alexgrubard.com.
Awesome. And on the socials, what's your preferred social for people to find
Always at Alex Grubard. Awesome. Grubard.
Just like perfect. And Jess, where can people find you?
People can find me at loveandlightservices.com or at Jessica Brodkin, Brodkin, on Instagram is probably my best. You can find me on Twitter, but I don't tweet. I just watch. I'm a Twitter voyeur.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard to remember that it's not Twitter anymore.
I know.
Oh,
it's X. Sorry, I'm not gonna. I don't want to call it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna call it X.
Him to dictate how I refer to things.
Do people still call it Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. Everybody knows what you mean when you say Twitter.
What if I said like find me on X? What are they? They're gonna think? What are they gonna think? Like it's only
it's OnlyFans.
It sounds like OnlyFans.
Yeah, it absolutely does. That's probably the point. It's not a flaw. It's a feature.
What would be the spiritual version of OnlyFans?
Oh my God.
Lonely fans. No, I don't know. Just pun came to mind.
Popping crystals out your pussy.
Pop. Damn, very
for
impressive.
that and more.
Right. Instead of ping pongs.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we covered plant medicine a little,
bit.
right? We covered.
We didn't even talk about acid, which isn't plants.
Oh, did
Next
you do
time.
acid?
I have done it, but I am more of a shroom person. So
Yeah.
So when you talk about being more into plants and
Earthy.
stuff,
I felt
yeah.
your connection to plants and
think
earth
you
really
could be
deeply.
right. Yeah.
I'm also not just in terms of psychedelics, but I love plants so much. They're like my favorite thing. And I will die on the hill that plants have consciousness and are sentient beings.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah, that's cool.
Have you ever
like
heard
to fight with
plants
this.
talk?
I have heard them make sound. Oh yes, I have actually.
It's like a whisper.
Maybe that's how they talk. That's how you
I.
hear them?
That's how I hear them.
No, I feel them. I feel them like more than I hear them. But I did when I'm upstate in New Paltz, which is like my favorite place upstate.
dude,
I like to go to
New Paltz is
Minnewaska State Park. I go to this massive waterfall and I just like meditate on that waterfall. I don't care how cold it is. I'm just like it's my happy place and I just feel blissed out. I'm always like I'm gonna do shrooms upstate, but I don't need to because I'm But I saw this tree. I felt this tree like sort of glowing. I was like, and so I went and I sat by it, and it told me to contact this woman to start working on my book. And I had abandoned my book, and she was like, so I did immediately, and she was like, yeah, let's talk about it. And anyway, so the tree was right. I listened to the tree,
Trees,
and the tree
man.
told me to.
People
get back
don't
to my
respect age and wisdom anymore. Like
or
you
trees.
need
No,
to,
for sure
yeah,
not.
yeah. This
Yeah.
is awesome. We're
Dude,
gonna
I
end
love
on
it.
that.
Now I feel like I climaxed. My podcast. I was like, I got in my plant thing, and now I can go home.
Plant medicines and sacred comedy. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Please review, rate, and subscribe, and share this with your friends. We are a weekly podcast dropping every Wednesday starting in January 2024. You can find us at sacredcomedyshow.com and Sacred Comedy on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. So thank you so much for listening and watching. And you only live many times. How's that?
I like
I love
that.
it.
I like that.
Well
Thanks.
done.
Thank you, guys.